Hello and welcome everyone to the Varsity Tutors StarCourse series, where today that word star is going to take center stage because we have a star in all three disciplines of acting here as your acting coach. He's been a star on the stage on Broadway, on the small screen and the big screen of Hollywood. That's right, we're talking about Matthew Morrison. And he's also a triple threat in another way, in that so many of his roles have asked him to both act and sing and dance all at the same time. So he's going to talk all about what it takes to be a triple threat as an actor, and really what it takes to be a great actor. You know him from South Pacific and Hairspray on Broadway. You know him from Glee on TV and from so many other projects. But today, you know him as your teacher with Varsity Tutors, and we're excited to get started. Now, you probably know, but he played a teacher on Glee, and one of the things that makes teachers most gleeful is when students participate. And so before I turn it over to him, I want to make sure you know how to do just that. One, you see the chat box to the right of the screen. It says ask, but you can actually use it to ask and answers. He's a teacher that doesn't mind if you break the rules a little bit. He's going to ask you some questions to find out what you know and think about acting and acting at its finest. Answer those questions there. Throughout the session, if you have any questions whatsoever, ask them there. And in the last 10 minutes or so, I'll interview Matthew with your questions so we can get you some answers. He's also going to lead us through a little bit of a vocal warm-up exercise at some point today. So do whatever it takes to make sure you're comfortable doing that. For me, it's going to mean turning a microphone off here really quickly so you hear him and not me. And lastly, make sure you've got a camera nearby. In about a half an hour, we're going to give everyone an opportunity to lean into the screen and take a selfie with Matthew. And if you do so, you'll be entered to win a prize package. We'll show you when we get to that point. But all in all, get excited, get gleeful, and let me introduce your teacher for today, Matthew Morrison.
Hello, everyone. How's it going? Firstly, I'd like to say that I am honored to partner up with Varsity Tutors to impart some knowledge that I have acquired over my 25 years in show business. I actually started acting when I was 10 years old. I went to, my parents sent me to Arizona to hang out with my family for the summer, and my family threw me and my cousin into a children's theater play. And I absolutely, being an only child, I had such a wild imagination growing up. So it was this great, I guess, moment for me to kind of put my imagination to practice. And I felt the energy on that stage, and I just never turned back. I knew from that moment. I actually came home from that summer. I told my parents, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. And luckily, I've been able to do it. So I grew up in Orange County, California. And after a couple of years in children's theater, I went to this amazing performing arts high school called the Orange County School of the Arts. And after that, I was lucky enough to get accepted into NYU, New York University, in the Tisch School of the Arts. And I was studying musical theater. I consider myself a stage actor, even though I'm probably more known for my roles on television, but I was trained in the theater, and that is definitely my strong suit, which is odd because I don't do it as much as film and TV these days. But that is this career in a nutshell. The career kind of pushes you around, and it pushes you around in funny ways, and you can't quite make a lot of plans. You can have dreams, you can shoot for those dreams, but you have to be incredibly pliant and improvisational as a person. I feel like I've lasted a long time in this career because I'm willing to go down a lot of roads, and I think that's what it takes in this business. You have to kind of be malleable, and if you're asked to do something, you have to kind of adjust, and you have to be very pliable. But it's also because I also put in a lot of work, a lot of time crafting my skills as an artist over many years, and I'm still developing my skills today. So hopefully for you, this is going to be a really great place to get your feet wet if you haven't already, and really see if this is a career that you would like to pursue. So with that, let's get into class. This is kind of an overview of the class where we're going to be, the curriculum that I've put together today for this class. And as you see, first, we'll start out with the prologue. All acting careers are surprises. Now, let me ask you a question. When do acting's biggest stars, they realize that they have what it takes to make it in this business? It's funny. It's actually right there. I couldn't read it. But answer that question for me. When do acting's biggest stars realize they have what it takes to make it in this business? You can write it in your little chat board, and oh, wow, they're already starting to come in a lot. Wow, there's a lot of you on here. Some of the answers I'm seeing are during high school plays, at an early age, entertaining their friends and family. That was definitely me for sure. Um, when they sing their first onstage solo and nail it. That's a great one. Sometimes you don't always nail it the first time, but we'll work on ways to get there. What else do people say? Some people say they never really do, or not until after they've made it. I would like to actually focus on the last answers and mention that, you know, all acting careers are surprises. I don't know any actor who has said that this is exactly how they plan to do it, how it's going to go, and that's how it ended up. You know, everyone has a different path. That's the interesting thing about this medium is you can't just say this is how you do it and you're an actor. You know, everyone has a different road to get there. So if you're wondering what it takes to be an actor, the answer is pretty much always, you know, maybe. You know, you'll maybe get that job, but if you put in the work, then you're ready for if and when your big break comes. My big break happened when you know, when I got into Broadway. I went to NYU, did my schooling, and I actually felt like I was kind of ahead of the game, and I was just like, I'm just gonna go for it, just try it, see what happens. And luckily, I say luckily because that's a lot of this business as well. Luckily, my third audition, I booked my first Broadway show, which was Footloose. And that was my big break. That's all I ever wanted to do since I was a kid. But I think a great career has a lot of big breaks. I think the biggest break for me was actually when I was cast in Link Larkin in the musical Hairspray. It was the original cast. We were putting the show together. It was 2 weeks into rehearsals. I was in the ensemble, which it's same as the chorus. But I understudied Link Larkin. And 2 weeks into rehearsals, the guy playing Link Larkin got a movie and he left the show. And so they had these auditions to replace him. I was, you know, on a short list for it, but I knew they had a lot of people come in. I know Justin Timberlake came in, a bunch of other like bigger stars. But Marissa Jarrett Winokur, who played Tracy Turnblad in the original production, she really had a lot of faith in me, even though I didn't really know her that well. But I was kind of filling in the rehearsals after he left, and you know, they gave me a shot, and I got to do the out-of-town tryout, which was in Seattle. We were there for a couple months, and they didn't give me the Broadway contract because they wanted to see how I did out of town first. And I was ready for my opportunity when it came. You know, I was ready for it, and from there, they gave me the Broadway show after that, and you know, the rest is history. So, you know, I'll tell you, make sure you're ready for that break when it presents itself. But let's get into a little bit about, you know, the acting is action-based. Here's another question that I love your answers on. When you read a script for an audition, what do you focus on? Let a few answers come in. When I say a few, there's hundreds coming in right now. Okay, let's get a lot of you say my lines. That's probably the most popular answer right now. Stage notes and direction, the whole story. Of course, you should absolutely focus on the whole story. The mannerisms of my character. Okay, that's a good one. I mean, I don't think there's actually much mannerisms that are usually in a script. Mannerisms are something that I think is up to the actor to really figure out. They might give you some little things, but they're not usually in there. There's a lot of great ones here, but I think every one of these is very important. But the one thing I didn't see people say for me is the pauses in the script, the moments of reflection, the way that the character discovers the scene as it unfolds. You know, one big secret to acting is yes, you do have to know your lines, but they're not the only thing. There are other things that are just equally as important. Showing is more important than telling. Now, acting is very physical. And when I'm acting for TV, I try to think about making sure the audience knows what's happening, even if they're watching on mute at the gym, or say they're in a doctor's office, waiting room, you know, and there's no sound. I think it's so important that you show from your physicality what the scene is all about. Now, acting and action, they start the same way, you know? It's not talking, it's acting. I think if it was talking, everyone would be able to do it. Acting is its own thing. Now, acting is so cool because you can't tell the audience everything. They're there to see it. They don't want the actor to tell them what's happening. They want to see the character experiencing it, you know? So let's take a monologue. Most young actors starting out, they're always going to have to start working on monologues, and it's a great starting tool because you know, to be honest, there aren't a lot of monologues unless you're doing a lot of classics and stuff. People don't write monologues like they used to, especially in film and television, because you want to keep things moving, so everything's really kind of fast. But monologues are a great thing to focus on while you're training. And here's a little something I figured out was all monologues are all about the same thing. A character is compelled to speak out loud, and they need to convey to the audience why. And that's basically what a monologue is a character speaking out loud. Now, you need to know your lines ahead of time, but here's a little trick. Your character shouldn't know the lines, okay? Plays and shows, they all have discovery as part of their plot lines. Characters learn news and react to it. They face new situations and adapt, and their relationships to other characters begin from nowhere, or they evolve from one thing to another. But your character needs to authentically react, not just recite a script. You have to make your character react to new scenes and lines. Now, to go back to what I was saying earlier about pauses, you know, give your character time to process events, to listen to and to internalize what other characters are saying, other people's dialogue, and you want to think and you want to reflect. It's different on television because a lot of times, you know, people really, like I was saying, they want that kind of peppy pace, so you don't have a lot of time to pause. But do yourself a favor, try it. Try and see what those pauses do for you, because if you're an editor of that show, you can just cut out those pauses. So you do what you need to do. Take that time as that actor. I think it's really important to take those pauses and reflect. And now acting is about reaction, not reciting, or as this says, recitation. You have to let yourself be vulnerable and try to authentically react to events and to dialogue. You know, the audience needs to feel that every event that is happening is really happening. And, you know, the funny thing about acting is you may be surprised by your own reaction. And I'll tell you, that is equally scary and exhilarating. But that, for me, when I'm surprised by my own actions, that's where the magic is. Now, the audience comes to a show to detach from their lives, and they want to come and they want to feel joy and feel pain and feel sadness and love through someone else's eyes. And actors can't detach from those emotions. You know, they have to lean all the way in so that the audience gets to detach and feel those emotions through you. Does that make sense? I hope so. Let's go to the second section here, and that is theater is teamwork. I can't even stress how true that is. When you're acting, who defines the essence of your character? I'd love for you to answer that one. Let's see what we got here. You do. Yes, that is a very popular one. You definitely define the essence of your character. The director, we got the author of the play. It depends. Yes, it does depend. You are all partially right. but it's kind of a trick question. So lots of people will define your character, and you'll have some say as an actor, but probably not as much as you think. You know, everyone is going to have, that's why they call it a collaboration, because everyone is there to collaborate and kind of work together as a team to figure out the essence and the storyline of the piece. You know, acting is a team endeavor, and the whole team will ultimately define each scene and each character. So who defines your character? Other actors will talk to you about your character and interact with him, and you have to honor and react to that. You know, a lot of times I see actors, especially when you're doing a television show, they go and they just go through the script and look for their lines. Like, okay, nothing, me. Okay, this is my scene. But you really have to know what everyone else is saying about you, because that informs so much about your character. So you need to read the whole script to make sure you understand. And every time someone else says your character's name, highlight it. Even like, I always highlight it in a different color just so I can tell, like, okay, that's not my line, but this is what they said about me, which is true because it's in the script. The script is your Bible. Everything is true in the script. Another important thing that I've kind of realized over my time is, especially in film and TV, you always want to go in having different versions of characters and scenes. And that is such a huge part of your job. The director and the editor will react to the different versions you offer, and adaptable actors get that reputation, and they get that reputation of being easy to work with. And that's it in this business. You want to have that reputation of being a joy to be around, you know? Some personal stories for me that I have for my work in television is that, you know, the TV editor has the final say. You may deliver this 2-minute scene and they'll cut it down to 20 seconds. And you just have to trust that the team got it right, and you just want to give them enough material to choose from. That's when I talk about like having multiple versions of a scene. You don't want to just go in there and have one thing. This is how I'm going to do it. You want to be adaptable. You want to be able to go in there and have a couple versions. So when they get into the editing room, they'd be like, oh, that didn't really work. It was a great performance, but this one works for the whole story. So let's do this take. So I always like to go in there with a couple different versions of everything. So I did some directing on my time on Glee. And I remember one of the big kind of challenges was trying to narrow down all of the footage I shot into 46 minutes, because that is the standard time of an hour-long television show, not counting all the commercial breaks. And so in my case, I actually had to cut an entire song out of the episode. And it sucked because I know how hard the actors had worked on it, and, you know, it's with the music and the choreography, but, you know, especially in television, there are just strict time constraints that you have to follow. And I still remember going up to those actors and having to tell them that I cut their song, and just reassuring them that it wasn't their fault. They had a great performance, and but it's awkward. It's weird. The other thing I want to talk about is this expression. It's called going into the white room. And I love this slide that Brian put together because it's that is it. It's blank. Going into the white room, it's basically when you go blank. You forget your lines. Everyone forgets their lines or stage directions at some point. I mean, the best casts, that's what they're there for. They help one another out of the situations. You know, I had this time on South Pacific when I was on stage. It was my big entrance. I was lighting a cigarette and the lighter wouldn't work. And I had to like figure it out. I threw my cigarette out. I ended up putting in another cigarette and get it going to another, like South Pacific. So we were all like soldiers. Went to another soldier. He lit my cigarette. But by that time I was like so worried. I was like, I have no idea what my line is. So at that point, I went into the white room. And what happened was one of the other cast members, his name was Danny Burstein, great theatrical actor. He kind of said, so where you coming in from? And that cued me. That was my first line. Because my first line is, I just got off the ship and I'm just coming here to help this guy get somewhere. So that really set me on track. But if he hadn't like fed me that line, we would have been sitting there for a while. So that's what I'm talking about with teamwork. You always want to be there for your team. Even if you don't have a line, always be watching the person who is speaking, because that is, they might need you. They might need you to reach out and help them out of a tough situation. You know, theater cast, they always get really, really close because they have to, because there's no call and cut. You know, the show must go on, and together they have to figure things out and honor that tradition of just the show must go on. You know, even in Hollywood or on Broadway, actors build reputations. And I'll talk about this again, because being a good teammate is much easier way to land a role. So directors, they want safe hires. They don't want someone that's going to blow up their whole production. If everyone gets along on set, projects are much more likely to succeed. So I think that's a huge thing in this business. But let's go to section 3, and that is acting requires failure. So here's the question for you on this section. What is the biggest mistake you have ever made on stage? And if you haven't been on stage yet, make up a mistake you think would be a big mistake. Let's see what we got here. Forgetting lines. I've been there. Saying the wrong character's lines. I've never done that, but I've seen it happen. It happens a lot with people who are understudies, and they have to memorize a lot of different characters, and they might be on for this one character, but they're saying lines for someone else in the understudy. It's kind of comical, but again, we're a cast and we're all trying to figure it out. Tripping and falling, that's happened to me for sure. Going totally out of sync with the choreography. Yeah, that happens. That all happens. These are all great ones. You know, there are a lot of answers here. And you know, that's because all actors make mistakes. Those who said, I've never made one, you honestly must be the class clown, because otherwise you're lying to me. We all make mistakes, and that is okay. That is totally okay. Have a great relationship with failure. That is probably, I think, one of the most important things, is having a great relationship with failure, especially in live theater, because that's it. It's live. You will make mistakes, but you control how you react to them. Look, I've made a ton of mistakes on the stage, but 99% of the time, the audience had no idea that I made a mistake. I knew, but it's my job as an actor to keep the scene going and to basically not let you see my mistakes. So that's a whole part of it. You have to kind of just be so confident with your craft. You have to just, if I make a mistake, I just keep going. Make up a line, make up a word. In the middle of a song, if you forget a line, hum. The audience doesn't know, unless it's like a really famous show that everyone, like Wicked, and everyone knows every single lyric to. And then you're kind of like, okay, everyone knows you made a mistake, but it happens. I'd love to talk about auditions for just a second. I like to compare auditions, this is funny, for any sports fans out there, to a batter in baseball. Most of the times you step up to the plate and you are not going to hit the ball. I don't know any baseball player who has even a 500 batting average, which would mean they've gotten up to the plate and they hit half of the balls that half of the at-bats they had, they hit half the time, and they got out half the time. That's basically like auditions. Most of the auditions you go out for, you won't get the part. And you know what? You have to be okay with that. That is a big part of this business. I like to think of all auditions as opportunities to practice and learn. And just because you don't get that part you're auditioning for, you know, the casting director, they might see you and say, okay, you're not right for this part, but in their head, they're thinking about you for some other part. And that is why you don't want to like just go in there and be, no, man, I screwed up and just walk and like huff and puff out of the audition. Every audition is an opportunity for you to put your best foot forward and showcase what you can do, even if you're not totally right for that part. I think another thing for me is you are going to be bad in time, you're gonna have bad nights. Like if you're doing a show, you're gonna have bad nights. Sometimes you're gonna be in a bad play that, you know, some people aren't gonna be totally into. I think those are all great opportunities to learn. I actually remember some nights where I would try a new line reading, try to make a joke funnier and get more laughter, and the joke would completely fall on its face, and no one in the audience would laugh. All my cast members would look at me like I was crazy. But you know what? I learned a lot from those mistakes. Not mistakes, from those risks, because that is a big part of this business too. Is acting is taking chances and making risks. And I think some of the better actors that we have out there, they take the bigger risks. So I think that's a huge part of it. And sometimes you fall on your face, and that's okay, because hopefully you'll notice you fell on your face and you'll learn from that experience. I think it's so important to be constructively self-critical, meaning don't beat yourself up. I mean, if there's one thing I wish I had done differently in my career, it would be to be easier on myself. You know, I was way too hard on myself when I was younger, and I think that it, you know, it shows. It kind of messed with my head a little bit. So I wish I had taken more time to really just take care of myself and be kind to myself. But nowadays, you know, many auditions are self-tapes, and you get to, which basically means you're auditioning at home, because that's the world we live in now. We all know that. So you're auditioning at home, you're doing self-tapes, you're putting yourself on tape with a scene that you're sent. And I love those. I love them so much because you get to try them until you get it right. You know, if you're at a regular audition, you're going in there and you probably get maybe 1 or 2 times, and they're like, okay, thank you for coming in, bye-bye. And you're like, oh, I wish I would have done that differently. But as self-tape, you can do it until you have it right. And you have the opportunity to watch yourself back and critique your performance, which is a great tool to have. So let's go to the next section. I think it's section 4. Yes, musical methodology. What is your favorite musical? I love to hear this. Okay, they're coming in hot. Hamilton, obviously a huge one here. Wicked, Finding Neverland, thanks. My Finding Neverland crew out there. South Pacific, thank you very much. Glee, yeah, I guess it's kind of a musical, TV musical. Les Mis, nice. Footloose, that was my first Broadway show, thank you very much. You know, it's funny because I see a lot of exclamation points in your answers, and that makes so much sense because people who love musicals really love musicals, exclamation point. So, so you know, I couldn't come here without specifically talking about musicals and what it takes to be a part of them. So let me start with this. What makes musicals so hard on the cast, but so lovable for the audience? The thing is, you have to be a triple threat these days. You know, back in the day, they used to have this thing, it was like in the 50s and 60s, where they would have a singing chorus and a dancing chorus. And there was like 20 people in the singing chorus, 20 people in the dancing chorus. And that's all you had to do. You're either a singer or you're a dancer. Nowadays, it doesn't work like that. You have to do everything because the cast size are getting smaller. Producers are trying to cut money where they can. So they want you to be a triple threat. You have to do it all. And doing it all is very, very, very hard. Singing and dancing is extremely hard to do together. So I have some tools here I can kind of impart on you for you to kind of maybe help things go a little more smoother. So let me first just take you into the mindset of a musical. The characters are so overcome with emotion that they can't speak. They have to sing. And when they can't sing, they have to dance. So the techniques for all the phases of musical are dancing, singing, and acting, of course. So dancing. There's a lot of people who want to do musical theater and they're like, I don't need to dance. That's not true anymore. I told you, you have to dance. You can't fake knowing how to dance. If you want to be in musicals, you have to put in the work. You may not be the best dancer, and that's okay. If you are like, I just want to do leading roles, sorry, but a lot of leading roles I do dance. They still have to dance. But even if you do a part where there's not much dancing to it, you're probably at some point going to have to do some kind of like soft shoe or something that is a part of a dance. For me, something I could help is that helped me, I guess, was ballet. Ballet was a huge. It's the basis of all dance. You know, it's where all dance comes from. For me, it helped me learn how to control my body, how to use different muscle groups, and it's like for singers. If you were a singer, opera is probably a great thing to learn how to do first, because you learn how to properly sing. And let's just talk about singing. Singing, it's not enough to sing well once. In theater, you're doing it over and over and over, night after night after night, sometimes twice a day. You have to learn how to sing correctly. Sing correctly is I think one of the hardest things to do. There's a lot of people out there that don't sing correctly, and you know, they don't have long careers because of it. They tear their vocal cords and they can never really sing again. You know, I'm going to do a little singing at the end here. We'll just do a little quick, a couple quick tips that I have for you with that. But if you want to go into musical theater, one of the biggest things I do is run while singing. I will go for a run. I think it's best to build that endurance, to build that stamina, because you're going to be needing a lot of it when you get up on that stage. So, because there are a lot of times you're going to have to do a full dance number and sing while you're doing it. So you're not actually taking in the breath you want to, because you have to finish a phrase. So I think it's so important to go out there and take a run and sing while you're doing it, so you can practice moving, sweating, and breathing all through it. So I'll do the vocal warm at the very end, but the last thing I want to talk about is acting. Obviously, acting is the foundation of it all. You are acting your way through a song. You are acting your way through a dance. I've seen some of the best dancers out there. They are like the most technically talented, but there's nothing going on here, and it just takes you right out of it. Honestly, it's so hard to watch. I mean, it's so beautiful to watch. You're like, oh, that's beautiful. But if they could tell a story with their face at the same time, it would just take that performance and just be off the charts. So you have to be able to act your way through a song and through a dance. So that's kind of like what this lesson was about. I hope you gained some knowledge. I just want to do a couple quick tricks I've learned for vocal warm-ups. Vocal warm-ups are key. Whenever I'm going, I used to do them every day. And I think if you're younger and starting out, you should be singing every day. Get together with a piano player, if you don't play the piano, and just have them do scales and record it. Tape it so you have those scales and you're just kind of ready to sing with those. And make sure they do scales that go outside of your comfort zone. You want to constantly be pushing your limits. I have basically the same warm-up tape I've had, I don't know, since I was like 19 years old or something, and I still use it today. So basically you just need your warm-up tape and you're good to go. So one trick for me is diaphragmatic breathing. You know, you want to breathe from your diaphragm right here. This is where everything comes from. If you feel like you're breathing from your chest, you're probably doing it wrong. If you feel your throat and it's getting a lot of tension in there, you're doing it wrong. This should all be so relaxed. You want to just relax everything here. It's the most important part of singing. A lot of people, when they go for the high note, they tense up so much and they're like, oh, try to muscle it out. That's not the way to do it. That is not the way to do it. It should be easy. So one thing I've learned is to get your tongue out of the way. A lot of people, when they sing, their tongue, they don't know what to do with it, and it kind of gets in the way of things. So one very important lesson that I've learned is, I'll do it with you. Here we go. So this lesson is, it'd probably be better, more sanitary, to grab a piece of a paper towel or something and fold it up a little bit and then put it on your tongue. So basically, but if you don't have a paper towel, just grab your tongue like this. Got it, all right, I'm not going to talk on this, but it'd be fun if I did. So when you have your tongue, you're going to notice naturally your tongue's going to want to go back and it's going to want to tense up. All you have to do is just hold on your tongue. That's why it's better with a paper towel, because if you hold it with your hands, it's going to slip. It's going to slip right out. So grab that paper towel, hold your tongue, and then do your vocal warm-ups, holding your tongue out, and just try to just hold it. Don't like pull on it or anything, but just hold it in place. And you'll notice the tension when it tries to go back. Then just try to relax. Just relax your face. And you want to have the open column of air. That's basically your canal right here that the voice comes out of. And so let's start with and just go na. So that is na. And you're gonna hold your tongue. Na. And that's basically what you're gonna do. You're just gonna go up the scale and come back down the scale. And that will be your vocal warm-up. But I think that it's a very important thing that most people don't talk about, is kind of getting your tongue out of the way. And that is kind of all I have right now. I could do a whole nother masterclass just on vocal technique. There's so much to do with that, but that was just a little something I want to do with you to hopefully give you something to kind of work on at the moment. But I hope you all enjoyed that, and I'd love to answer some questions now for you.
Man, thank you. It took me a second to get back on screen because I was holding my tongue and I need to wipe it off the mouse to toggle some things. Hey, thank you so much for just some amazing insight and I think you demonstrated. When we get into the Q&A, let me know can I tell everybody how we set up the show? You are a teamwork going down many roads. Not everybody knows, but about 3 minutes before this, there were some technical internet difficulties, and Matthew and his family are putting together their own stagecraft and doing all the whole stage crew and everything. So in terms of being a team player, being willing to go down many roads, the show must go on.
So my internet
impressive.
went out. I was supposed to do it all on my nice little computer here, but internet went out, so I'm doing it on my phone, and that is how. But we got through it. Hope everyone enjoyed it.
Show must go on, and it did. So with that, the show must continue to go on, because we promised you guys some pictures with Matthew and then getting some of your questions answered. So one, keep those questions coming in. You guys have been asking some amazing ones, so this would be a whole lot of fun to go through those. Mm-hmm. And then two, have those cameras out. In a second, I'm going to go back full screen to Matthew. Want to let you know, if you upload that selfie to Instagram, tag Matthew Morrison, tag Varsity Tutors, you'll be entered to win a pretty cool prize package that we are going to follow up on in Q&A. That includes a free VT Plus subscription. We'll have a link up on your screen to check it out. And that's where, being a triple threat in musical acting, you can be a triple threat in all kinds of different disciplines. You can take classes on basically anything you want with VT Plus. So you'll be entered to win that, plus an autographed ukulele. And we're going to make sure we ask why. I think we've got one hanging on the wall right there, at least leaning on the wall. Why that's such an authentic gift there. But yes. Let's throw it in the picture. I'm going to go full screen to you, Matthew. I think everybody's got those, has had time to dry off their tongues and get ready for the picture, got the phones out. So I'm going to turn it back full screen to you, and let's get those pictures.
I know some of my hardcore fans know that I love this brand, Lonnie Kai. But that's what you'll be getting. One of these, one of my personal ones. I have a bunch right here. I love the ukulele, for any of you who don't know, and probably everyone who's seen Glee. My audition song was actually, I learned Some Over the Rainbow on the ukulele. I thought the ukulele was a very teacherly instrument, so I wanted to incorporate that into my audition for Glee. So that's when I actually started learning how to play the uk, and it's been a great tool for music in my life ever since then.
Perfect. And actually, yeah, let's go pictures. In case you guys didn't get amazing pictures, let's go one more. Just kind of out of like a stage themed pose here, and then we'll get into some questions. I gave you a question and a picture at the same time. I'll go back full screen here.
For my Japanese fans, yeah.
All right, awesome. Hopefully everybody got some amazing pictures. We're going to keep Matthew on full screen when he's answering questions. If you didn't quite get the one you wanted, sort of like, auditions, you won't always get the ones you want the first time out, but we'll give you more opportunities there. We'll, make sure whatever your batting average is with selfies, you get that there. But we've got some amazing questions. One, you talked about the Glee audition. We had a lot of variations of, did you like being on Glee? So I'll ask you, I want to ask you a couple of Glee questions all in one. One, what was your favorite part or maybe most memorable part of being on Glee, such a powerful part of so many years' lives? And then the other common question that came in was, what was the song that you had to cut, and did that ever get released anywhere so we can check it out?
I it was a Christmas episode. I remember that. I don't remember the song. I remember it was Naya Rivera and I think Chris Colfer were singing the song, and it was this cute little song inside this it was like a shopping experience, but I don't remember what song it was. We did so many songs on that series, so it's kind of hard to kind of think of what song was what.
Perfect. And then to follow up, what did you take away from Glee? A lot of people, we had a lot of questions, just did you like it? But rather than a yes or no, what did you like most about being on Glee? And did you think it would, especially when you're doing that first audition, that this many years later, people would still be talking about it, listening to the albums? Did you see its popularity coming? And what was your favorite part about being part of it?
When none of us saw it coming, it was one of those things that was just kind of hit at the right time. And when I first saw the script, it was like a bunch of kids singing in high school choir. I'm like, okay, I didn't think it would like get the attention that it did get. But I think the thing I loved about it is that it brought music into people's homes, and I think that's why the show was so successful in so many territories all around the world, is because music is the language that we all speak, and you don't need to speak English to connect with a song, to connect with music. So I think that's why it did so well. And music is such a huge part of my life, and that's what I was so honored to be a part of a show that like I said, brought music into people's living rooms. That was amazing.
Well, thank you for that. You mentioned the holiday themed episode. That's definitely a soundtrack that gets played in my household a lot around the holidays. You've definitely brought music into so many of our lives, and in some ways that we can have vocal, exercises into us. So there will be a lot of music in people's homes over the next few hours with a lot of tongue holding. But thank you for all that. Hey, another huge, common theme was dealing with stage fright. And so I want to ask that in two ways. One, what's your best advice for dealing with stage fright? But then let's even take it kind of personal. You had a first show on Broadway. What was that like? Were you nervous, and how'd you get through it?
Well, for me personally, I do this thing, and it's so strange. I do a handstand or a headstand. I'll lean up against the wall and just put my feet up and just kind of be in my head, and all the blood rushes to my head. And for some reason, it just kind of knocks out the nerves for me. I know a lot of people do a lot of different things, but you know what? It's okay to be nervous. It's all a part of it. Some people aren't performers, but if they have to make a big speech in front of their company, or everyone gets nervous. It's what you do with those nerves. And I think a lot of people have different techniques for what they do. And I've heard, think everyone's naked in the audience, or, but I think the biggest thing is to own that you're going to be nervous, and then let it go. Try to just let it go and think about the joy that you're going to give people, or the joy you're going to give yourself by singing a song or by doing a monologue. Because you are what I get to do with my life is to express myself through art, and it is probably one of the greatest gifts I can give to someone as an artist. And it's I just know that because from my career I've just seen the reaction people have to a show, just being touched, and like I was saying in my lesson, really just just letting them, if they, because you have an audience full of people. Let's say there's 2,000 people in the audience. Everyone's going to see a different show because they're there. They're having their own emotions. They all went through their own days and what was happening. Some people, somebody might get broken up with, or somebody got a job offer. You know, everyone has different opportunities and we're all different people. So everyone's going to see the show differently and connect to something differently. So as an artist, you just give the best show that you can possibly give, and just know that it will in some way connect to someone, if not everyone in that audience.
That's really powerful. I really like you. Thank you for that. And while we stay on nerves for just a little bit, we actually we have a lot of questions about auditions. One of my favorite. We've got a 9-year-old here who's auditioning for the part of Cinderella on Saturday. So I want to give you that as a specific vision for someone, you know, maybe going to a first audition, maybe auditioning for a dream role. It's, you know, some point over the next, you know, however long. What would you tell them to think about in the last, say, 72 hours before our friend here's audition for Cinderella?
Well, Cinderella was actually one of my, it was like my second show I did in children's theater. So probably I was 9 or 10, 11 maybe. So your age. And I played the part, I got the part of the Herald, and the prince is giving a ball. But it's such a beautiful show, and I love it. I think going into it, just if you can, just be overly prepared. And I like to, I took this thing from Pete Carroll, who is actually a football coach, but he spends all of his training days and stuff like really practicing so hard. And then on game day, he says, let it all go. Let it, everything we practice go, and just try to enjoy yourself. Because that's why we put in the hard work, is because we want to, you know, be at the top of our game. But what do we get if we don't enjoy the process, you know? So when you're actually there on game day or audition day, that's when you just kind of let it go. And like I said in my thing as well, let yourself be surprised by something you do, you know? So like, I didn't plan on sitting down at this moment or whatever it may be, but be in the moment, just have fun with it and let it go and enjoy.
You know, that brings together a couple, you know, things that you would mention. Like, your character is a human being too. So your character is going to have somewhat odd reactions or those kind of things. I think if you're, you know, if you're sort of letting yourself feel like the character, maybe the character is a little bit nervous or a little quirky or something. You get to put your own spin on it. So
that's a great point, right? Like I've done that a lot, where I've just, maybe some nerves were hit me, or if I didn't hit like the note I wanted to hit, I would play it off and be like, I don't know. I don't know what I would do. Sometimes you're just in the moment and you just do something silly, but I think here's an audition thing I learned a lot. If you do mess up an audition, keep going. Don't say, oh, I'm sorry. Or say like, oh, and feel like apologetic about it. Or even don't even comment on it. Don't say, oh, I missed that note. Or, you know, I've seen a lot of people, they just get their nerves get the best of them or whatever, but just keep on going. I think that's a big thing, because the people who are auditioning you, that's a part of the show business. You know, they want to know that if you do mess up, you're not just going to stop and freak out. They want to see that you actually have some sort of skill set that you can just, like, if everyone knows you messed up, yay, okay, let's move on. How are you going to finish the number? So I think that's a big lesson and tool.
Yeah, good opportunity to prove to them that the show will go on if you're in the cast, that, you know, you're a safe hire, safe cast, like you talked about before. Hey, last question for you. We're going to go back to you know, some of the things that you were talking about here. You said you have a great relationship with failure, and be able to learn from those things. A lot of people want to know, is there a part that stands out to you that you really wanted but didn't get? And then we'll transition that to a positive note. What part would you love to have a chance at some point in the future?
Like I said, most parts I go out for, I don't get the role. And I think most actors, I mean, that's the name of the game. You know, it's a very low percentage game. But every now and then something might happen and you get that one role that just kind of leads you to the next one. And that's why I think I say about having great relationships with directors, casting directors, cast members, because you never know what their next project is. So I've worked with directors over and over again because they know my work ethic and they know that I'm a safe hire and they know they like to work with me and they know I'm going to bring something to the table. But what was the question?
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, I was looking. Is there a role that stands out to you that you either really wanted to get but didn't, or that you're looking forward to having a crack at sometime soon?
You know, one of my first auditions I ever had was to play Chris in Miss Saigon, and I really wanted that part. It was like a part that it was like my dream part growing up. I remember being in high school and just like listening to the soundtrack and singing at the top of my lungs to it. But I had I got really close to getting it, but I didn't get it. And then I got, footloose and then I started going in a different direction. And by the time I was actually I was probably a little young when I was auditioning for the part, but when I was actually the right age, the show just wasn't really around much anymore. And I was kind of off of my own career, kind of originating a lot of different characters in Broadway shows. So I actually preferred the trajectory that I did go on, but it wasn't the one I had wanted. That's another thing I talk about. You just kind of have to go with the flow in this business, because sometimes the thing that you really, really, really want, there's a reason why it didn't happen, and it's going to lead you in a different direction that you might be happier with how it did happen. So that was the one for me. But in terms of a part that I would love to play now, I really love originating roles, putting my stamp on it. I've been so lucky that I've gotten to originate on Broadway, probably four characters. And there's something special to that, because if you are just replacing someone, or you're doing a show that's a revival and someone else has already done it in the past, you're always being compared to that person, or there's some kind of comparison. But when you originate something, everyone is compared to you. And there is a template you have to follow if you are doing a replacement or a revival of a show. If you're originating a show, you are a part of actually molding that character. And now every other like Hairspray, every other production of Hairspray now, they kind of have to stick to a guideline of what I created for that role. So it's amazing to kind of put your own stamp on something. And I think my dream role hasn't yet been written, so I'm excited for what it is.
Man, it's such a metaphor for life that, you may not get exactly what you want, but the show must go on and life goes on. And your dream role, your dream future hasn't been written yet. I think that's the perfect place to leave it with advice for so many people. So Matthew, thanks so much. You talk about being a great team player in the lesson, and you absolutely were. This has been a lot of fun collaborating, and it was a team effort. Thanks to everybody in the ensemble out there for all of your questions, for participating along with some vocal exercises, for getting those selfies up. I'm going to throw up the instructions here so you guys know where to put those. So Matthew, huge thanks. We can't wait to see what your next few roles are, and we'll all be watching. Everybody out there, we can't wait to see your roles if you're auditioning this weekend or anytime soon. Best of luck and break a leg, and we'll see everybody back here soon. Reminder, if you get those selfies up on Instagram, here are the handles to tag, and here's the prize package. Signed ukulele, just like the one Matthew showed us, and a VC Plus subscription where you can learn about everything so you're ready for whatever your next role is. Check out the link on your screen for that. And again, we'll see everybody back here soon.
Thanks all.